Welcome to Simply Explained English. I am Lisa.
And I'm Eric. Do you want to improve your English easily? If so, you're in the right place.
Okay, today we'll listen to a podcast about how to train your brain to think and speak in English.
Let's listen to it.
Welcome to English Mindset, the podcast that helps you learn English more effectively. I'm Mark, and today we're exploring how to optimize your brain for language learning. My colleague Emma is here to share some powerful strategies that can transform your English journey.
Hi, everyone. I'm excited to help you discover these simple but effective techniques that can make learning English easier and more enjoyable.
Let's briefly summarize what we will talk about today. First, develop a growth mindset by reframing negative thoughts. Second, set SMART goals that are specific and achievable. Third, use the 2-minute rule to make starting easier. And fourth, incorporate physical movement to optimize your brain for learning. Walk and talk. Okay, let's start with the first one. Emma, many of our listeners believe they're too old to learn English well. Is that true?
Not at all, Mark. That's actually a common myth. Many adults think children have sponge brains that learn languages easily, but adults can't learn as well.
What does science say about this?
Neuroscience shows that adult brains can change and grow too. This is called neuroplasticity. Our brains can form new connections at any age.
So age isn't the real problem.
Often, it's our mindset. There are two types of mindsets: fixed and growth. A fixed mindset believes your abilities can't change. A growth mindset believes you can improve with effort and good strategies.
Can you give an example of these mindsets in language learning?
Sure. A fixed mindset thinks, I'm just not good at pronunciation. I'll never sound like a native speaker. A growth mindset thinks, my pronunciation is improving. With practice, I can get better.
How can listeners develop a growth mindset?
Start by noticing negative thoughts. When you catch yourself thinking, I'm bad at grammar, change it to, what new ways can I try to understand grammar better? This simple change makes a big difference.
Do you have a personal example of how changing your mindset helped you learn something?
Yes. When I started learning to play the piano as an adult, I kept telling myself, I'm too old to learn music. I made very slow progress. Then, I changed my thinking to, my brain is forming new connections every time I practice. Within months, I improved dramatically. The same principle applies to language learning.
That's inspiring. And I imagine this mindset change affects how we handle mistakes too?
Absolutely. With a growth mindset, mistakes become valuable learning opportunities rather than embarrassing failures. When you make a grammar error, instead of feeling discouraged, think, great, now I know what to improve next.
That's really helpful. What's another strategy for effective learning?
Setting SMART goals. SMART stands for specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time-bound.
Could you explain what that means for English learners?
Instead of saying, I want to improve my English, which is too vague, say something like, I will learn 5 new travel phrases each week for the next 3 months.
So, that's specific, measurable, and has a time limit. Why is this approach better?
It gives you clear direction and helps you track your progress. Each time you check off a goal, your brain releases dopamine, a feel-good chemical that motivates you to continue.
I've noticed many learners get overwhelmed with big goals like become fluent. Is there a way to make goals less intimidating?
Absolutely. That brings us to our next strategy, the 2-minute rule.
The 2-minute rule. What's that?
It comes from James Clear's book, Atomic Habits. Instead of saying, I'll study English for an hour, start with, I'll study for just 2 minutes.
Only 2 minutes? That seems very short.
That's the point. It makes starting much easier. Often, once you begin, you'll continue for longer. But even if you only do 2 minutes, that's still progress.
What are some 2-minute activities for English practice?
You could read one page of an English book, listen to a short audio clip, review 5 vocabulary cards, or write 3 sentences in your journal. The key is to make it so easy that you can't say no.
And I guess doing something small every day is better than doing nothing because it feels too big.
Exactly. Small daily habits build momentum. Your brain forms connections through repetition, not through occasional intense study sessions.
Could you share a success story of someone who used the 2-minute rule?
One of my students, Carlos, struggled to find time for English with his busy job. I suggested he start with just 2 minutes of vocabulary review during his morning coffee. After a month, those 2 minutes naturally expanded to 15, and his vocabulary improved significantly. The hardest part is starting, and the 2-minute rule solves that problem.
Okay, our next topic might surprise some listeners. How does physical movement relate to language learning?
This is fascinating. Exercise actually helps your brain learn better. When you move your body, even just walking or dancing, you boost a part of your brain called the hippocampus.
What does the hippocampus do?
It's your brain's learning and memory center. Exercise increases blood flow there and helps you focus better. It also reduces stress, which can block learning.
So, should listeners exercise before studying English?
Yes, even 10 minutes of light movement can put your brain in a perfect state for learning. Try taking a short walk, then sit down for some focused English practice without distractions.
That's a simple tip anyone can use. What about combining movement with English?
That's a great idea. You could listen to an English podcast while walking, practice vocabulary while stretching, or even describe your movements in English while exercising. I'm lifting my arms. Now I'm bending my knees.
I've heard that many successful language learners use movement in their study routines. Can you explain why this works so well?
Our brains evolved to learn while moving, not sitting still at desks. When we add physical movement, we engage more parts of our brain, which makes stronger memory connections. Also, movement reduces anxiety, which is a major barrier to speaking a new language. That's why activities like walk and talk language practice can be so effective.
These strategies all seem very practical. Any final advice for our listeners, Emma?
Remember that consistency matters more than perfection. You don't need to do everything perfectly. Just keep showing up. Use these brain-friendly strategies, and you'll see progress over time. Your brain is capable of amazing growth at any age. With these strategies, you can learn English more effectively and enjoy the process. Remember, small steps lead to big results when you take them consistently.
Thanks for listening, everyone. We hope these tips help you on your English learning journey. Join us next week for more practical advice on improving your language skills.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.
What do you think about the English mindset, Eric?
Very useful. I think our students would love it too. Many students feel stuck because they think they can't improve.
Right. I liked the 2-minute rule too. It's a great way to help them start.
Yes, we can ask them to do short daily tasks, just 2 minutes at first.
And maybe set SMART goals together?
Great idea. Simple, clear goals can really motivate them.
This podcast gave us so many teaching tips. Okay, well, let's start our podcast. What are the words today, Eric?
The first word today is mindset. Then we will continue with intimidating and vague. Then related to something, and the final one is check off.
Let's start with the first word.
The first word is mindset.
Mindset.
Mindset means the way you think about something. It's your attitude or belief.
So it's how you see things in your mind?
Exactly. For example, she has a positive mindset. That means she thinks in a good, hopeful way.
What about he has a negative mindset?
That's correct. It means he often thinks in a negative or unhelpful way.
Here's another one. To learn a language, you need the right mindset.
Yes, That means your way of thinking should be open and strong.
Can I say she changed her mindset about exercise?
Perfect. That means she used to think one way, but now she thinks differently.
Is mindset a noun, Eric?
Yes, it's a noun, and it's countable. You can say different mindsets.
Like, people have different mindsets about money.
Exactly.
Is mindset formal or informal, Eric?
It's neutral. You can use it in writing or in everyday conversation.
That's good. It sounds smart, but still natural.
Right. Here's a quick check. Is this correct? She has a strong mindset?
Yes, that's correct.
What about he mindset is positive?
No, it should be. His mindset is positive.
Great job.
So, mindset is a useful word to talk about how we think. Okay, well, now let's move on to the next word.
The next word is intimidating.
Intimidating.
Intimidating is an adjective that describes something or someone that makes you feel nervous, scared, or less confident.
So if something is intimidating, it makes me feel a bit afraid?
That's right. For example, speaking English to native speakers can be intimidating for beginners.
I understand. Can you give us another example?
Sure. The tall, serious professor was intimidating to new students. This means the students felt nervous around this professor.
How do we use this word in sentences?
You can say someone is intimidating or something feels intimidating. For example, the job interview was very intimidating, or he can be intimidating when he's angry.
Is this a formal or informal word, Eric?
It's fairly neutral. You can use it in both casual and professional situations.
Are there any related words we should know?
Good question. Intimidate is the verb form. His angry voice intimidated the children, and intimidation is the noun. She used intimidation to get what she wanted.
Let's practice. The big exam tomorrow feels intimidating.
Great example. Or don't be intimidated by difficult grammar rules.
I think I've got it. Something intimidating makes you feel nervous or scared.
Exactly. Remember, listeners, many things might seem intimidating at first, but with practice, they become easier.
Okay, well, I think our followers have learned what intimidating means. Let's move on to the next word.
The next word is vague.
Vague.
The word vague is used when something is not clear, not exact, or hard to understand.
So if someone gives a vague answer, it means they didn't give enough detail?
Exactly. Maybe they don't want to say much, or maybe they're just unsure.
Can you give us a full sentence?
Sure. Let's say someone asks, "What time will you arrive?" And you say, "I'll be there sometime in the afternoon." That's a vague answer.
Yes. You didn't say 1 o'clock or 4 o'clock. You were not specific. That happens to me a lot with dreams. I wake up and have a vague idea of what happened, but it disappears fast.
Exactly. Dreams are often vague.
So, vague is an adjective, right?
Yes, it is. And the adverb form is vaguely. For example, he vaguely remembered her face.
So he kind of remembered, but not really well.
That's right. And we can also say her instructions were vague, meaning they were confusing or not clear enough.
I hate it when someone gives vague directions, like, turn somewhere near the big tree. That doesn't help much.
Yes, we all need clear directions, not vague ones.
Is vague a formal word, Eric?
It's neutral. You can use it in everyday speaking or in writing. It's common and very useful.
Good to know. Let's test it. Is this correct? She always talks vague?
Not quite. You need to say, she always talks in a vague way, or she always gives vague answers.
Got it. So vague means something is not clear, not specific, and a little confusing.
Yes, And now your understanding of this word is not vague at all.
Okay, shall we move on to the next word?
Let's do that. The next word is check off.
Check off.
Check off is a phrasal verb. It means to mark something as done, usually on a list.
So, like when I finish something on my to-do list, I check it off?
Exactly. Imagine you have a list that says, buy milk, clean the kitchen, call mom. When you finish each task, you check it off.
That always feels so good. Like, yes, I did it.
It really does. Here's a sentence. I checked off 5 things from my list this morning.
That means you were productive.
Yep. You can also use it when planning something. Like, let's check off everything we need before the trip.
So it's not just for chores. It can be for travel, school, even shopping.
Absolutely. Anytime you have a list, you can check things off as you go.
Is check off informal or formal?
It's informal and common in everyday speech. In writing, you might see mark as completed instead.
Got it. And grammatically, check off is a separable phrasal verb, right?
Yes, you can say check off the item or check the item off. Both are fine.
Okay, let's try a quick one. I checked the homework off. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. You finished the homework and marked it done.
What about, don't forget to check off your name on the list?
Perfect example.
I think I'll start checking off small goals every day. It really helps with motivation.
Great idea. Even checking off little tasks can make a big difference.
So, check off means to mark something as finished, usually on a list. Okay, well, we've reached the last word. What is the last word, Eric?
The last word is related to something.
Related to something.
Related to is a very useful phrase that shows a connection between things, people, or ideas.
So, if two things are related, they're not the same, but they have a connection?
Exactly. For example, her job is related to healthcare. That means she works in something connected to health, like maybe she's a nurse or a doctor.
Got it. So, it's not just she's a doctor, but her work is connected to health in some way.
Yes. Another one. This book is related to history. Maybe the book is about a war or about old kings and queens.
I think I've said, this isn't related to what we're talking about. Like, if someone changes the topic.
Perfect example. That means the new topic doesn't have a connection to the conversation.
Can we use it with people too?
Good question. You can say related to when you talk about family, like, she's related to me, she's my cousin.
Oh, right. So it works for family connections and topic connections.
Exactly. Now let's look at grammar. Related is an adjective, and we always say related to something. The word to is important here.
So we don't say related with or related about?
Nope, just related to. For example, my question is related to the lesson.
And what if I say, his problems are related to stress?
That's perfect. It means his problems come from stress or have a connection with stress.
Is it a formal phrase?
It's pretty neutral. You can use it at school, at work, or just in conversation.
That's good. So, let me try one. My job isn't related to science. I work in marketing.
Good one, Lisa.
Well, that's it for today's episode of Simply Explained English. We hope you found the words helpful and the explanations easy to understand.
Thanks for listening. Keep studying your English.
And stay tuned. Bye for now.